This presentation is about Caroline Cox, a nurse leader working to provide humanitarian aid and advocacy. Firstly, I will cover a brief biography about Caroline and why I chose her as my nurse leader. I will discuss the attributes she has as a nurse leader and some examples to share. Her leadership style and achievements will also be discussed. Her inspiration to me and what I have learned from her will be the last discussion point in this presentation. Caroline Cox, born in London 1937, her father was a surgeon and author of Bailey and Love that is still used today as medical textbook. Caroline became a clinical nurse in 1959 and worked in Edgware General Hospital. Caroline furthered her studies and served as a principal lecturer in sociology, director of the Nursing Education Research Unit at the University of London, and eventually was appointed Deputy Speaker of the House of Lords in 1982. Caroline founded the Humanitarian Aid Relief Trust in 2002. HEART is a distinctive organization in that their approach to aid relief is heavily guided by international advocacy. They serve people who are exploited and persecuted around the world. Caroline Cox was chosen as a nursing leader for this assignment mainly because of her passion for helping people in need and her caring heart. I believe this is a quality that is very important for nurses to have. Castledine states that effective leaders in nursing are people that retain core nursing values such as respect, teamwork, unbiased, and committed to lifelong learning. I believe Caroline Cox displays all these qualities in her life and work. Moral courage in a leader can inspire team members and can also make others feel uncomfortable because they challenge them to think beyond themselves. Morally courageous leaders are those that don't turn a blind eye to difficult and unsolvable problems. Caroline Cox is a leader that has moral courage to stand up for minority groups that don't have a voice. Caroline stands on international and local political platforms and does not hesitate to ask some difficult questions. The latest question Caroline Cox wrote to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office was to ask Her Majesty's government when they last raised issues of freedom of religion for Christians in Sudan with the Sudanese counterparts. Caroline is not passive in her ways to help people. In her biography, Caroline would debate for hours in the House of Lords for the religious freedom of persecuted Sudanese minorities in front of very uncomfortable Sudanese ambassadors and Sudanese representatives. She would often travel to places that the Sudanese government banned for NGOs to enter. There she would meet and listen to the stories of religious persecution and abuse by the Sudanese government and religious extremists. People nicknamed her "Voice for the Voiceless". She had the moral courage to be relentless in providing aid and sharing their stories with the rest of the world. Advocacy is the second attribute that is essential for nursing leadership. Advocacy includes speaking out for vulnerable people and also taking active action to meet unmet needs of people. Caroline Cox displays these attributes throughout her work and life. For example, Caroline visited North Korea to speak out for North Korean people who were falsely imprisoned and experienced human rights violation. A study by Katri et al. Highlight charisma and vision as the two most important factors in a transformational leader. These attributes have a positive impact on the people around the leaders and the followers to be more sensitive to social needs and be more compelled to seek changes. Caroline Cox inspires and challenges her staff and people around her through her fierce charisma and vision for human rights. Caroline Cox has been recognized as true advocate for human rights, and her work in providing education, aid, and international advocacy for oppressed minority people around the world. According to Australian Institute of International Affairs, Caroline received the various international awards to recognize the positive impact of her relentless work, such as the prestigious Wilberforce Award and International Mother Teresa Award. Caroline Cox has taught me to be a true advocate for the patients I will meet as a nurse. Her relentlessness and fierceness in speaking up for those who feel forgotten and neglected is a fundamental attribute a nurse should have. Caroline